Hello and welcome to the Power of You.
Indeed. We're here, and you can hear me okay?
I
You got, all
can
right.
hear you just fine, and my mic is on, and
I know.
so life is good here.
We've
Life is good.
overcome technical challenges, which is
Yeah.
not to say we won't do that again. However,
No, we probably will. Yeah, and I'm actually awake. I just got off in a transcontinental airplane flight, so
yeah.
at least I'm physically present.
Yep, there is that. There is that
Uh,
part, which
what
is
are we
always
doing today?
which is
Power of You.
always good.
This episode.
Doing great. This is going to be a great episode. This is something we took. Well, this is the foundation and framework for our mastermind.
Yes, it is. Yes,
And
leadership
so
elegance. How do you? Yeah.
leading through elegance.
Leading
And
with elegance and using our ACT model. Leaders, cause motion by their actions. So we've got an acronym for how that looks and what do you need to pay attention to. So we're going to unbundle that in the context of leading with elegance. And
yeah,
elegance does not have to do with how you look, sartorially. It's I know. I pulled the rug out from you on that one.
that's not what I expected.
I know. It really has to do with minimal unintended consequences.
Right.
Yeah. I was, as just mentioned, just got off an airplane flight, and I was working with a group the last couple of days, rolling out a strategy platform. And the leader is really an elegant leader. I gave him some pretty good kudos for what he was putting together there. Minimal unintended consequences. The buy-in in the room was significant, and we didn't have to go back and clean up a whole bunch of stuff. And that's kind of the hallmark. Yeah, I mean, if you got to go back and clean up after yourself, you might want to take a look at how you're doing what you're doing.
Right. I would consider that an indicator.
Yes. So let's take a look at this. The Power of You, elegant leadership as it applies to and as it's run through the ACCCT model: awareness, context, communication, commitment, and trust.
Dun, dun, dun.
The ACT model.
I know. It feels like I feel like we need that bump.
Yeah, or the NBC. Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. That would be great.
So we start off with this every episode, or some semblance of this, some version of this. Yeah.
Very true.
So, when we're looking at elegance, again, it's about minimizing unintended consequences. And one of the ways that things go south pretty quickly is when you get so in the weeds that you don't notice that something has changed.
Right.
And that's where the snake bites you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's where the rock snakes live.
Yep.
That's another. I've schooled my granddaughters on rock snakes, but it's very true. It's that it's really that's I think that's part of the challenge as a leader is to get hung up in the weeds, and you fail to notice what you're noticing. Not that we'll lean into that conversation here in just a little bit.
Yes, we will.
And then you present. I love this bullet whether you present strategy without grounding it in a shared meaning, which happens to do with something about communication, context. I'm not sure where that connects
All that good stuff.
ACCCT model, but there is leaders, as you listen to this, one of the things that happens is you make the assumption that everybody got it because they shook their head.
Yeah. Yeah, the visible signs are there. They go, You even heard,
Yeah. Yes. The audible indication that says, I don't got it.
Yeah. That's not a yes. So the assumption of meaning, shared meaning, and then, like I said, I just spent 2 days with this group, executive leadership team, and to their credit, they really organized around what does this mean? I hear what we're saying we're wanting to do in the strategic direction, both the strategic initiative, but also some of the underpinnings of that. What does it mean? And this we talk about it for the sake of what, and we're going to go back into that bucket here in a minute here.
Sure.
Why does this strategy make sense for me? Why does it make certain sense for us? and for the organization, and why does it, how does it position us in the market?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's incredibly important. Those are questions. You got to answer those questions. If you don't know the answer to those questions,
Yep. All bets are off. All bets are off.
you will
And what happens if you don't question it? You just assume alignment. You saw the heads nod, and you say, "Well, everybody heard me say the same thing. They were all listening with the same, with ears, and they were in the room at the same time.
Yeah.
So they heard the same message. So we've got alignment."
Oh yeah, which is fun because I love that the next one, which is leaders confuse this makes sense with actual commitment. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And
we're going to take that one apart here in a little bit too. Yeah. Makes sense doesn't mean I own it.
Right.
Makes sense means, when I lived in Japan, we'd be in meetings and Japanese staff would be going, hi, and hi means yes. Yeah. Right. You understand? Hi. Doesn't mean anything around commitment. It's just, I heard the words, they made sense to me.
Yeah. And they in their mind, they're giving that hi, but they're not committed.
Yep, not committed at all. And
not committed.
And if that's not picked up on, you got misalignment, and as a consequence of misalignment, you've got lack of accountability. And this is where an EOS, a strong EOS, comes into play here, enterprise operating system. And then you end up conversationally with cordial hypocrisy, what we call cordial hypocrisy. Go along to get along, and nobody tells you the truth. Nobody, raises, that sacred cow continues to graze on the conference table.
That's right. And by the way, leaders, first one of you to notice that there's 5 here instead of 4, you get a virtual prize. Just send a note. We'll send you something nice.
Yeah.
We'll send you a compliment. Good catch.
Yes. So email us at one of these addresses, doland@dolandwhite.com or blaine@avatarresources.com, and we will give you that attaboy.
We'll give you a compliment. That's good for you. I know that.
Okay.
There are those that will be retentive and have to go, wait a minute, that's not 4.
Wait a minute. These guys can't count.
We'll do 3 next week, see if they catch it.
Even it out.
Yeah. I love these though, the symptoms, and leaders, we talk about this every time we do a power review. We talk about symptoms, and this is the colloquial sniff test in your organization. When you are in that, these are things to be aware of that you as a leader notice. Meetings are usually about KPI status rather than in progress reporting, and which is that crux of we're stuck in the, goes back to the very beginning, being stuck in the weeds. I'm stuck in the weeds.
Yep.
I'm looking for KPIs. Tell me about the KPIs. Yep. Tell me about tell me about all of that stuff. Not the meaning, not the for the sake of what, not the outcome, but now just show me the numbers.
Yeah. Show me the numbers. And if the numbers aren't there, if the KPI is, you're falling a little short, the conversation is not about what's missing from meaning. It's more about what do you need to do to fix it.
Right.
And those are 2 completely different conversations. One will keep you moving down a road that's probably not going to result in the kind of outcome that you want. The other one will stop the process long enough to go, okay, let's clarify and get back on this, get back on track here.
Right.
So that's what we're looking at with us. Symptomatically, it almost never happens. Meetings are about what we're doing, not how are we doing.
Right. Which is fascinating, because that's such an easy place to get stuck.
Yeah.
Such an easy place to get stuck.
And what you end up with, and this is the whole cordial hypocrisy piece, you've got team members leaving meetings saying, yep, I'm in. Heads either vocally or non-verbally, you assume agreement. But then what happens is they'll circle back after the meeting and they go, well, wait a minute. I'd like a little bit more direction here. The question how comes up real quick here. Yeah. And that's the one, and that leads us into number 3 here. Either wanting more direction after they've already said, yep, you can count on me, or they come back out of there going, wait a minute, how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
And unless you tell me how, I'm not sure we're going to get down the road too far.
Yeah. Yeah. Which then hooks into sandbagging. Because you get that when people don't know, when they don't understand the how, and there is a little bit of a terror barrier in there. I told them I knew how, but I really don't know how. So I'm going to look busy.
Yeah. Yeah. And sandbagging, for those of you that are not native English speakers and are familiar with American colloquialisms, basically what you're doing is you're stuffing stuff in a sandbag, in a bag, so to speak, here for a rainy day. So you can pull it out and go, hey, look what I did. And nobody knew about it until you pulled it out. It's kind of like, yeah. So it's an interesting conservation move that is designed almost always around protecting self or protecting the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You salespeople know that term.
Oh yeah, sandbag. I've been sandbagged.
Bunch of sandbaggers.
I love this quote from Lao Tzu. The Art of War. A leader is best when people barely know he exists. And this is in the context of elegance.
Yeah.
Minimal unintended consequences. A leader is best when people barely know that he or she exists. When the work is done, when the aim is fulfilled, the people will say, we did it ourselves.
Yeah.
So there's an element there of pulling people up as you elevate. I mean, everything just kind of, and it's almost done in the background. I had an old mentor years ago that was just adamant about leaders, and particularly coaches, leading from the back, leading from behind, so that when everything was said and done, the people would stand on their own and they'd look around and go, look what I did, or look what we did. Yeah, if it happened to be a team, it wasn't patting the leader on the back going, hey, way to take us through the promised land.
Yeah, exactly. I love, made me smile seeing this quote in here. So I used to love this quote for a long time, but when you think about it, I used to tell my leaders, in leading, it's like air. It's there,
mm-hmm.
but it's transparent.
Yeah.
And it's got molecules and it's got all the things you need, and you die in 3 minutes without air, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
You can rule of threes, which reminded of my Boy Scout ethics this morning on rule of threes. But there is that point. It is that transparency, is that people barely know you exist, but the work is done and it's fulfilled. And it is that ourselves. It is that us, not me.
Yep. Speaking of which, leadership, this is the whole, that idea of they did it. Yeah, that's where influencing as opposed to command and control comes into play.
Right.
Big distinction. When you're influencing, that is the air in motion. To use your metaphor, Dolan. I mean, it truly is. It's people have the experience of it around them, but it's ineffable in the sense of, I feel like I'm doing it myself.
Right.
But the air is actually generating what needs to be generated to cause that kind of a movement. People end up co-creating. It's ours. That whole handoff, it's ours. Ownership comes into play here. They figure out ways to make it happen.
Yep.
Yeah. It's coordinated movement. They recognize that, we're going to have some disagreements here just because we're individuals, but we've got this meaningful direction that we're in pursuit of, and that's that worthy ideal. That thing that gives meaning to what our actions are all organized around. Yeah. So that's what we're doing here.
Yeah, I love that. That's and I imagine in your onsite this week with the execs, that's that's a challenge for a company, is coming to that worthy ideal.
Yeah.
What is the inspirational thing that we're working towards? It's not the 10% more commission, 5% more operating margin. It is that worthy ideal, that inspirational. What matters to the bill, to the business itself, to you, to the team, and to you, the individual.
Yep.
And if they don't know, you can just tell them. I mean,
this is why it matters to you.
Right.
No, that won't work. That doesn't work. We're looking at this in the lens of elegance.
Oh yeah, that.
So
Yes.
The framing that goes on here, traditional legacy leadership models. And think about traditional legacy leadership models in a military sense, because that's a default for many people, or Jack Welch at GE, or Bossidy at Allied Signal, or Hannibal crossing the mountains with the elephants, pushing directives, insisting, this force field that just kind of compels compliance. Do what I say. I'm the boss. This is the direction. Let's go out, take that hill. All of that stuff comes into play, and that's traditional. Elegant leadership is very different than that. And this is when we're talking about compassionate capitalism, we have elegant leaders in play here when we're looking at an organization that is compassionately capitalistic. Minimal unintended consequences, again, combining, the leaders combining strength with humility. They're focusing on empowering others. So they recognize that they can't do this by themselves. And the 4 pillars that we work with is all about empowerment. And that's kind of your tagline, the empowerment guy.
I am.
You are. I mean, I read about that in a book.
I got the
tattoo. Acting with integrity, navigating challenges, with that whole calm composure, that equanimity. Things are going to go sideways, but you don't have to run around with your hair on fire.
Right.
I mean, all that stuff, because that will cause unintended consequences. People will start getting scared. They'll start contracting. They'll run to the wood piles. They'll tell you anything you want to hear just to get you out of their face.
Oh, boy.
All that stuff. So
yeah, so true.
Respect, not forced by authority, characterized by quiet confidence, nurturing growth. You can read this as well as I can speak it. And you lift as you climb. So I'm going to pull you up as we move along here. So part of that lift as you climb philosophy has to do with recognizing that people want to grow.
Right.
People want to grow. They want to expand. They want to learn new stuff. And
that's really important. I was going to say, not to interrupt you, but that's a really important point. And I think that as a leader, when you think about elegance and in the things that Blaine is talking about, these have functionally become a checklist. Am I acting in an elegant manner? But one of the things that you just talked about is don't lose track of the fact that people have a desire to grow. We each select a place to work, a place to be, whether we're doing it in person or virtual or wherever, for the opportunity of growth. We never take a job with the intention of hoping it will suck.
Yep.
And growth is really important. And I love that point. When you're as the leader, when you're part of the elegance is nurturing growth, the lift as you climb. That's not to be people centric, but there you go.
There you go. That kind of captures it. So
that's fine. There's Brian. So I love this. When we're going to get into each of these, so I'm going to touch each one kind of just very gently. Leadership mindset, the ACCCT model, and earlier, leaders, I gave you a little tease that this is the framework behind the Soul of Business Mastermind, and that's a separate conversation. If you want to know about it, email Blaine or me, and we'll tell you about the mastermind. But when you think of mindset, this is your mind, awareness. I don't assume alignment. I verify how I and my people are interpreting reality. Earlier, we talked a little bit about common meaning. How are we interpreting that? Well, that's a step in that process. It's a mindset. And so as you're thinking through that from an awareness perspective, that's a question. Don't assume alignment. Am I interpreting reality by how my people are there with me?
Yep.
You want to trade off on these? You want to do one?
Yeah. So
we're well rehearsed. I mean, we might as well.
So one of the things that you can absolutely assume to be true is anytime things start to go off the rail, meaning is misaligned. Just guaranteed. I mean, you can take that one to the bank. People want to behave in a way that will produce what they've said that they agreed to produce. I mean, I don't know anybody that deliberately and intentionally with malice goes out of their ways to sabotage something. Now, it does happen. I understand that. I mean, when you get into political machinations and all kinds of other stuff,
There are.
but that's not what we're talking about here.
Right.
In a business environment, if execution is off, the context for the sake of what wasn't clear at the beginning, or it's drifted over time. And we'll talk about that over time piece here in a bit. But it will drift. It will drift. People start getting back into habitual ways of thinking, habitual ways of organizing. And if you're doing this well as a leader, you're taking people into the unknown. That's what the nature of growth is about. When we're looking at scaling an organization, for the sake of what are we scaling this organization? Not just so we've got more revenue. That's not the reason. That's not compelling. That's a consequence of scaling. Yeah. It's a potential consequence of scaling. But it's not what gets people out of bed in the morning. Yeah, it may get you out of bed in the morning because you're worried about your scaling initiatives, but that's not the same thing. Okay.
Yeah, that's so
meaning for the sake of what? What does this make possible? What do I get to have, do, or be that I wouldn't get to have, do, or be if we weren't doing this?
Right. I love that. That's And then communication mastery. Just a short preamble. It's the difference between talking and speaking.
Yep.
When you're talking, you're presenting. I'm talking. You define the meaning of the situation, which is speaking, which is intuitive. Speaking is bidirectional, and we'll get more into communication mastery as we go through this.
Yeah, and that bidirectional piece is where you want to land. That's really important.
Oh boy.
Speaking is not just one way. Speaking includes listening.
Yes.
I feel like I should get sometimes.
I feel like I should get my wife in here to testify at how good I'm not at that. So.
Yeah, me too. So commitment. Now, it was interesting. Just this group I was working with, we got to a point where we were, when we're looking at a chart of accountability, we had some initiatives. Yeah,
cool.
A couple of 90-day sprints around some very specific things, and part of the process was assigning an owner for each process or each initiative, and it was interesting going around the table going, well, what do you mean by owning it? I don't know how to do this. I don't know who to contact. Because it basically is a new organization. It's a startup that's revenue positive, but they're doing well.
Good
new team members. And the question of ownership came up, and I giggled a little bit, and I said, look, whenever the question how precedes the initial conversation about here's what we're going to be doing, and somebody says how, they don't own it. Ownership is missing.
Oh,
when ownership is present, there's no question about how. I'm just going to go do it. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll figure this out. So if how is the dominant question, ownership is missing. And if ownership is missing, you will not have accountability. You can't have accountability, which gets messy. So when we're looking at elegant leadership, minimal unintended consequences, one of the consequences that oftentimes is unintended is people going, it wasn't my job. You didn't tell me to do that. That's an unintended consequence, but it's baked into most systems.
Yeah, I love that. ¿Cómo? No habla inglés.
No,
sorry.
No habla.
No habla. And then trust, co-creation. And we're going to get into all these, so I'm going to go quick on this last one. Co-creation. We talked about co-creating in that definition of leadership, co-creating coordinated movement. Where trust is the cornerstone, the foundational piece of co-creating. You can't get to coordinated movement, or you can't get to co-creating that to get to coordinated movement without trust in place.
Yep.
You just won't work. And we'll get into a little more definition of what trust is about. But trust is where trust is where elegance is rooted.
So behaviors around this. The ACCCT model, you can think of them as kind of domains that people can, work from. But there are very specific behaviors that live in those domains. And awareness, noticing what you're noticing. Yeah, the old poem that we talked about this when the range of what I think and do is limited by what I fail to notice. And
Right.
because I fail to notice that I fail to notice, there's little I can do to change until I notice how failing to notice shapes my thoughts and deeds.
Yes.
Now, continuously inviting questions about noticing what we're noticing. Awareness is foundational to effective leadership. I mean, it's the foundational skill set in emotional intelligence, and it's absolutely crucial to effective leadership, effective and elegant leadership. Noticing what's going on in the environment, systems awareness, awareness of others, how's this landing on them? Yeah. Noticing and, kind of what's going on with you. Yeah. As things start to unfold. Yeah. All of that stuff. You're continuously inviting questions about noticing what we're noticing. And then we move into what does it mean?
Yeah. We get into, which is, I love that leaders in Blaine went around, notice what you're noticing a lot. But I don't want to just before I talk about context, it's very, very important to notice, which means that calm. We talked earlier about elegance, and you said it in just a glimpse of a sentence, which is running around with your hair on fire. When you're in that moment, it's impossible to notice. So elegance, part of that noticing. The key to get there is calm, inner calm.
Mm-hmm.
Take a breath, and you might have to go outside and walk around the block and come back.
Yeah,
but
very definitely
take that breath. And then context is remaining connected to for the sake of what. One of my favorite things in meeting with clients, and Blaine and I do this when we work with clients, is remaining connected to the for the sake of what. Sure, you're going to talk about objectives, and you're going to talk about measures, and you're going to talk about challenges or hurdles or things that you're going to work through, crawl over, crawl under, go around. It's what business is, right? Is the willingness to continuously start over. If you're focused on that, but at the end, at the beginning and at the end, reconnect to the for the sake of what. When you start, why are we having this conversation? And it's for the sake of what? At the end, when you're in the decision process, what is this about? And it is for the sake of what? And in the last three words, individually and collectively. And that gives you that binding where you're in alignment, and you leave that conversation or that meeting or that moment, and the context has given everybody, now we have meaning.
Yep.
Now we're connected.
And the way that gets handled, and I want to leverage off of the word connected here, all an organization is, and we've talked about this on other powers of you, collection of people in relationship. That's all any organization is.
Yeah.
The blood of a relationship, the medium through which relationships thrive is communication. It absolutely is. And if the blood flow is kind of constrained, pieces start to die off. It's not a pretty picture. Yes. So communication mastery, and you had mentioned speaking and talking and speaking. There's a listening aspect to it that kind of comes into play. There is a reciprocity. And we will spend in the mastermind program that we've referenced here, we'll spend 3 months. It's a year-long program. We'll spend 3 months simply on communication mastery. What does it mean to master the process of generating common meaning? And it's our position that while the purpose of, I'll just put it this way, the purpose of, why we communicate with anybody is to produce a result, whether it's, connect, whether it's socializing, whether it's problem solving, whatever that might, the purpose of communication is results. That's the purpose of leadership. Leadership and communication are the same thing. So your elegance as a leader will fundamentally come back to how elegantly you communicate. How masterful are you at being a communicator? Being a communicator, not just a talker, not just a director. Yeah, that sort of thing comes into play here. So you're continuously looking for ways to check for meaning. And that whole being thing comes right into that next piece that you're going to run with, which is commitment.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that first word, being, which is italicized there, which means pay attention to that word. Being the symbol, the exemplar. That makes me want to put my
That's where that platform comes out.
the exemplar of what we are seeking to achieve. So when we commit as leaders, and we talked a little bit earlier about the word commitment. It's an important thing. Commitment doesn't occur without you first.
Yep.
Fundamentally is what we're saying here, which is being the symbol. It doesn't mean first in, last out. It doesn't mean the guy carrying the rock up the hill. You're not Sisyphus. It doesn't mean you're the guy that's polishing the anchor. That's not who you are for us watermen. You represent, you are being the symbol, the exemplar of what we are seeking to achieve. You set and live the standard.
Yeah. Yeah. And that part of that being is that people will give you what they perceive you're willing to settle for.
Love that statement.
They will never give you what you ask for.
Love that. No, they won't. They will. God, what was it? Oh my! It'll come to me later, and I'll say it. It won't be pertinent to anything that we have to say, but anyhow.
Okay. And the final piece here on the ACT model has to do with trust, and this is, again, all an organization is people that are in relationship. That's all it is. It's just people that are in relationship. Relationships are working well, you got a pretty good shot at being successful. The way relationships work well is through communication processes. And the foundation that all relationships are built on is trust.
Right.
Now, that's true for interpersonal relationships. It's also true with the vision, the values, the structure, the work processes. Yeah, all those things in the organization, there are trust elements involved in how people relate to those elements. There's a relationship that I have with my chair. If I don't have a good relationship with my chair because it's wonky, my energy and attention is going to be distracted. Right. It's not going to be working. Right. So part of the leadership challenge here is to be able to deal with the consequences and know that you can handle the consequences of moving into the unknown. And you do it from a place of centeredness, of calmness, of equanimity. That all of that, which generates the experience in the environment that you know what you're doing. You got a solid foundation. Yeah. You may not know what you're doing. How do I know what to do when I don't know what to do? Yeah. I need to have a ground that I can stand on that gives that communicates. We got this handled. Yeah. We may not know how to do it, but we got this handled. We're going to get this figured out, guys.
Oh yeah, love that. And I took a momentary respite. Warren Buffett. You never know who's swimming naked until the tide goes out.
Just I forgot he said that. I forgot he said that.
Seemed appropriate at the moment, especially with the things that were with awareness, context, communication, mastery, commitment being the symbol, and trust.
Yeah,
it is when the tide goes out, because the tide in your business, the tide will ebb and flow. Oh, trust me. And it will do at the most inopportune time.
Yes.
It's not when tomorrow I'm going to let the tide, we're going to go to low tide tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. But I love that statement. It just popped into my head. You never know who's swimming naked until the tide goes out. And your job, leaders, is to maintain that consistency through all of these, which is governing your behaviors. And then through governing your behaviors, you are silently, quietly teaching those behaviors to your team.
Yep.
You can't pull them in a room and tell them, oh, by the way, you need to check for meaning before you simply understand. You
model
try that.
Yeah, you can try that, but
you can, but if you're not demonstrating that, it won't stick. It'll be another "this too shall pass" moment.
Yeah.
So, and don't swim naked, whatever you do.
That's what he does.
Whatever.
Unless it's a lake that doesn't have a draining plug.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We can, and this is a PG podcast, so we won't get into a PG conversation, so we won't get any further with it. But why? So I love this slide when we get to this about. So why the hell does this matter?
Yeah.
Why is this important? These conversations that we have. This is like episode 56.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And why does this matter? Well, The domains, these are domains, ACCT, these are domains. And go back and listen to this one again in particularly. They address 5 most common origins of unintended consequences. This is a really important slide. I'll say it again. This is a really important slide. And it's because it addresses blind spots. You're going to have blind spots. The thing you want to do is reduce the blind spots.
Yeah.
And
So
you
that
need the domains to do that.
Yeah, awareness. The job of awareness is blind spot oriented.
Yeah.
Shine a light on that corner there that never gets light. Oh my God, I didn't know we had that resource over there. How do we leverage that? Or, oh my God, that's a big trap. We better not go down that pathway.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then same thing with misread meaning, context.
Yeah, context, misread meetings. People they understood the business case, but they didn't understand what it meant to themselves, to the team. They may have understood what it meant to the organization because it's usually the business case that's leading the charge here, but it doesn't get trickled back.
Yeah.
And if people aren't buying in at a personal level, this is emotional engagement, which is what Gallup measures on an annual basis. 87% of the workforce is emotionally disengaged globally.
Yes.
Because meaning is not in place.
Yeah. And what was the tail end of that statistic was of that percentage, 73% or 72% are actively seeking employment someplace else.
Yep.
Because of that root cause. And then message distortion, communication.
Yeah. The lack of clarity creeps in. And as a matter of fact, that's we're spending a month in this mastermind right now, literally a month on the topic of clarity. How do you generate clarity in the communication? Okay. And clarity is not just linguistic clarity. It has to do with energetic coherence. I mean, there's a lot of things that come into play with clarity that distorts or amplifies the message. Think of it in terms of signal to noise ratio. I mean, it's essentially what you're doing here when you're mastering communication is you're reducing the signal to noise ratio so that it's clean. It's clean.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that well, and this is where commitment comes into play. Now, commitment's got an interesting time tail to it. People might buy in right on the front end. They kind of go, "Well, I get it. Yeah. I mean, and they mean it. They actually mean it. But over time, particularly if you've got a fairly significant time lag or time frame for this initiative that you're working with, stuff happens. Stuff happens.
What?
And when people are knocked off balance, and this is what I mean by stuff happens. All of a sudden the bank pulled a line of credit, or you had a key person go to a competitor. Stuff happens, and the default almost always is to go back to thinking and doing the way I thought and did before we set out on this journey, which generates drift. Mm-hmm. Now it's not as meaningful. Something else is now becoming more meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a consequence of connection to commitment loosening. So action drift, and this is one of the telltales when you're paying attention symptomatically. What are people actually doing out there right now? And is it serving the direction we said we wanted to go?
Yeah, love that. And then of course, information suppression. Oh man, trust.
Yep.
Getting all the way to the very end.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You talk about trust.
Well, no, but the information suppression. I mean, when people start noticing that things are going off the rails, oftentimes they won't say anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it has to do with ownership. Co-creating coordinated movement implies the people in the organization own what we're trying to do. It's not the boss's job to fix it.
Right.
Yeah. This is when you're playing with this in the context of trust, The Lencioni model, for those, Patrick Lencioni, take some time and check the Lencioni's model out on this.
Yes.
Every breakdown, in his model is traced back to breakdowns in trust. Breakdowns in trust. And it always results in information suppression in some way, shape, or form, which results in accountability going out the window, which results in cordial hypocrisy, which going along to get along. I mean, all of this stuff starts to creep in here. Information that could be justifiably and generously used to keep us on track doesn't get serviced, doesn't get surfaced, and it doesn't get leveraged.
That's so true. You end up with a company full of prairie dogs.
There you go. Yeah,
that's right. Looking to see if there's any vultures. Any vultures?
No vultures. So, from our perspective, and quite frankly, we're very proud of this ACT model. It is one of the more elegant, and I like that word. It's one of the more elegant leadership models I've ever seen. This becomes a living, self-correcting leadership practice. When you're taking this ACT model and really beginning to integrate it into your way of leading, your way of being. And it's probably the most precise definition of elegance imaginable. It really is. Leaders act in service of causing movement in pursuit of a worthy ideal. Mm-hmm. The ACT piece is where it gets muddy. You clean that up, the movement actually is fairly coherent and elegant, smooth, and the worthy ideal is realized. Easy to say, hard to do.
That's right. Yes, I was in a conversation this morning, and I had to make sure that was clear. Ease does not mean easy.
Yep. Effortless efforting
does not mean that. All right, big win.
Go for it.
All right, first one. Awareness. Awareness is what keeps a leader anchored in reality rather than operating from a mental model of reality. That's a cool sentence, because there's a difference between what is real and what is perceived real. There's a huge difference.
Yep.
Generally, and Blaine, we agree with this sentence. When we're working with executives, one of the very first things with leaders that are not anchored in awareness is there's a law. What you think the problem is not.
Absolutely.
It's a simple sentence.
Yeah.
Some leaders take umbrance. Some kind of go, well, there's a harumph, and the arms crossed. I got white hair. Me too. But there is that from an awareness perspective. If you are living in an awareness where you're focused on the mental model of reality rather than being anchored in the real situation, what you perceive the challenge is not the challenge.
Yep.
And you will be on a fool's errand.
Yep. You're going to be fixing something that isn't necessarily broken.
Yeah. You got plenty of gas, but you're out of oil.
So. Yeah. But you're out of oil. Exactly. Yeah. Context is what transforms leadership from reactive management into something genuinely elegant, because, and this is the key piece on this, it operates upstream from everything else. Yeah. I grew up on a farm, and I've hiked all over the Pacific Northwest, mountain rivers, mountain streams. And if you're downstream from a pollution element, all bets are off. I mean, the water is dirty, the water is tainted. It's just, everything that is downstream from that thing. We got a dead animal in the water. Okay, well, that's what's going on here. So communication, you set that up on the front end. It's something that operates upstream from everything else. When you get context landed in a meaningful way, and it is organized around meaning, everything downstream from that is touched, and it's touched by meaning, consistent meaning. It's clean. That's where clarity comes in.
I love that. And then communication mastery, right? There's courses in communication. Communication is, and they teach that communication is a skill. It is not just a skill. Communication becomes a discipline. the discipline of communicating and knowing when communicating is closing your ears. There's modalities in communicating. It is not about what is coming out of your mouth a lot. There's other modes of communication.
Yeah.
And it's the discipline of responsibility. You are responsible as a leader. You are responsible to master communication.
Yep.
You own it.
And that you own it. That I'm responsible for the result that gets produced as a consequence of my communication process. Now, I may not be accountable for some of the things that happen. That's a different conversation. But I am ultimately the responsible party. Okay, I'm responsible.
Yep.
And if you do this well, here's the interesting thing about responsibility. People shy away from it because how most people learn about responsibility is when they were roughhousing as a kid. They were 5 or 6 years old, and the lamp got broken. The lamp got knocked over, and mom heard the noise, or dad heard the noise. Who's responsible for this? Doland is. Blame is associated in most people's mind with responsibility. If I take responsibility, it's another way of saying I'm to blame. Blame has no place in this conversation. No place at all. Responsibility, you take the word literally, able to respond. Responsibility. I have an ability to respond that's informed by awareness, that is grounded in context.
Ooh, love that.
That's where we go with this. See, this is an elegant model.
I love that.
Commitment is a domain that keeps leaders honest and leadership honest over time. And we talked about time a little bit. Time is time and space. Our goals and objectives are out there in space somewhere. They've got a geographic location, someplace on the calendar. But then there's time that transpires between now and then. And this is where most unintended consequences are germinated, because there is lag. And if we don't have a constant reminder of the for the sake of what, we're not continuously reinforcing that natural drift phenomena begins to creep in. And that's drift is another label for unintended consequences. It has a number of different faces.
So maybe we should do a power view on Schrodinger's cat, but that's another one. Anyway,
that's another one. Yes.
There you go. Trust is a domain that makes the entire ACCCT system domains self-correcting, and what makes it uniquely powerful is a safeguard against unintended consequences. And trust is, you hear Blaine and I talk about this. The trust, there's domains to trust in and unto itself, which is again part of the mastermind when we go through that. But that cornerstone of trust, and we hinted at some of the things inside of this power of you, with the lack of information, with not being forthright, with not living into it, with trust. When trust is broken, it takes 4 to 7 interactions of trust across a 3 to 6 month period in order to create trust, and one inaction to break trust. Some weird law. But from that perspective, trust is the domain that glues this whole system together. And that's your safeguard, because when we plan, that is the definition of elegance, right?
Yeah.
To minimize unintended consequences.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if you've got trust in place, you can stub your toe and people will be forgiving. And they'll get back on the horse. They'll get back, in line, whatever they're doing.
They'll give you a moment.
Grace. Assume positive intent. It becomes more than just an aphorism. They actually do it.
Yeah, that's very, very true.
So here's what you can do. You can think about this. Cogitate on that, or you can give Doland or myself a call and have a conversation about it. Okay. So question for you here is, which of these 5 domains, the ACCCT domains, are your great? Just a real quick assessment. There's a survey module that we have on this, but I'm not going to activate it here. So it's all fine. But which of these domains would you consider to be, or here's another way to think about this. What would others say that know you well is your greatest strength area? What would others say
Ooh.
who know you well?
Good question.
And then the flip side of that is, which domain would other people say is the one that you have the greatest opportunity for improvement in? That if you
Right.
actually targeted something there, yeah, it could make you'd move the needle.
Yeah. 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 And then what breakdowns occur? Oh, and they will, by the way.
Yeah.
I love that. I love in parenthetical statement. Oh, and they will.
They will.
Which,
Just know this.
what domain and what domains are most likely involved? So it's such a great question. What's occurring and what are likely to occur? And what domain is it likely? What's going to be involved in that?
Now, what's interesting about this or useful about that question is, if your organization has any kind of longevity at all, it's been around for at least 18 months, you now have a track record of behaviors.
You can know.
And things repeat themselves. The universe works in a patterned way. Everything is a repeating pattern in some way, shape, or form.
Oh my
So
God.
when breakdowns occur, which domains are likely involved? This isn't going to be a one-off thing. If you can begin noticing, that names and faces have been changed to protect the innocent, but it looks like something we just dealt with about 6 months ago.
Right.
So you start paying attention to that. And then you begin working with your team to teach them how to do this as well.
That's really important. Not that none of this was important prior to that, but that's really important. The questions that we're talking, which of the five occur? Which of the five? If you know that, then you have the position to work with your team with effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you are leading with spaghetti. You're just checking it against the wall to see if it's al dente yet. So, ask these questions. Use these, and there's a lot more. We can give you more. Call us and send us a note. We'll give you more questions. But follow those executive reflections. Use those to narrow that funnel so that your focus is effective. Sorry, I'll get off the. There we go.
There you go. So this is what we're looking at.
I love that picture.
The elegant leadership. This is the objective. If we put this in the context of our leadership definition, the worthy ideal is elegant, acting with minimal unintended consequences. How do you do that? With awareness, by setting a useful context that generates meaning, common meaning. You communicate about it in a way that invites people to participate and continues to clarify meaning. You move into commitment, which is ownership. This is, leadership is about influencing in order to co-create coordinated movement. Co-creating is commitment. Coordinated movement is communication. It's all organized around context, noticing what you're noticing. Where's the breakdowns? Foundation of all of this is built on is trust. That's what we're looking at.
Nice job, Doctor.
Way to go, Doctor. So this is the power of you. Thank you for listening. And again, we're serious here. I mean, take this information in, play this back. It's up on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. It's available everywhere.
Bunch of places.
Play it over and over again. And if you've got questions, feel free. Absolutely. Do not hesitate to reach out to Doland or myself. Doland at dolandwhite.com or Blaine at avatar-resources.com. We answer emails. We do. Yeah, we love to have conversations about this stuff. Yeah. And it makes a difference. It makes a difference in how you feel about your leadership. It also makes a difference in how people feel in your organization. And that's one of the things we pay attention to with elegance. How do people feel about themselves when they're in the presence of you as a leader? Do they feel uplifted? Do they feel taken care of, seen and heard? Or do they feel belittled, shamed, like they can't do anything?
Yep.
One is more elegant than the other.
Oh, yeah. All right.
See you next week. We will have another topic.
We'll be back.
We do these every single week, like Doland mentioned, I think this is number 56. So we've been busy boys.
Schrodinger's cat. Is it dead or alive? Here we go.
Live, absolutely. We'll see you next week, folks. Thank you for participating with us. Take care.
Don't swim naked. See
Don't
ya.
swim. The tide is going out.
There you go.